En juin 1981, Steven Spielberg en était au deuxième mois de tournage de son film d'horreur Poltergeist. Mais un enchaînement d'épisodes mystérieux commençait à pousser son équipe à bout. Les longues journées de tournage et les incidents perturbants qui se passaient chez elle affectaient visiblement Jobess Williams.
We were so tired because the days were so exhausting. We all began to get hypersensitive to noises, sounds, jumpy lights that see things sort of flash by. And I think people were more susceptible to being creeped out because of the material that we were dealing with. When you sort of have to put yourself, especially as actors, in a state of terror all the time, you begin to overreact to things.
Les comédiens se demandaient constamment ce qui allait se passer. Le tournage de la scène finale fut un supplice terrifiant pour Williams.
The muddy swimming pool was actually on a set. It was at MGM in the old Esther Williams tank. They had built the pool, and then they put these huge lights, giant lights around it to light it, and then huge, what they call Ritter fans that are like 16 feet across to blow and create the sort of wind in the atmosphere. And I've always been very one of my fears is electricity and water. And so I would see these huge fans and these huge lights, and it would make me very scared to get into the water, because I thought, well, what if one fell in? Somebody bumped into it accidentally, because there's, a million crew members around.
Mais le producteur Steven Spielberg n'a pas laissé son actrice principale dans le désarroi.
Steven Spielberg put on waders and waded into the pool and stood, out of camera range on the side in the water. And he said, I want you to know that if a light falls in and it's going to electrocute you, it'll electrocute me too. And I felt much better. And fortunately, neither of us fried.
Les acteurs n'étaient pas les seuls à être stressés. Le réalisateur Tobe Hooper avait lui aussi des problèmes.
My recollections of Tobe was that I believe he had a vision as director slightly different from that of Steven Spielberg as producer, and very frequently Steven made adjustments to the shots that Tobe set up.
I'm sure it was hard for Tobe at times, because Steven is very strong. He's a very strong personality. His knowledge is just sort of breathtaking. And he was there all the time. I think you could really feel that Steven was very actively involved. And I'm sure sometimes that, that was frustrating.
C'était également frustrant pour le reste de l'équipe. Le responsable des effets spéciaux, Craig Reardon, était censé créer un morceau de viande fantomatique.
In the script, the steak became cancerous. That's the actual word that was used. And so Tobe saw that as something that had been deformed with tumors. So, because that's the way he saw it, I actually sculpted something, and I brought it to the set for his approval. And he liked it, he approved it. Steven Spielberg walked up and said, "What's that?" And I said, "That's the steak." And he said, "No, I don't think so." And he said, I think we better keep it looking like a steak, otherwise the audience will get lost. And I could see his logic, but I thought, a lot of work just went into this, which is now ash can. So from that point on, I made certain that everything got run through Steven Spielberg.
L'influence de Spielberg était palpable.
There's a scene where a man is hallucinating that his face is dissolving, and that was vintage Steve. He'd come in to tell us a bedtime story. He'd first take wet toilet paper, plaster it on his face, and he'd come in and scream, and these claws, he would just start, and ripping his skin off and throwing it towards us.
Avec Steven Spielberg constamment en coulisses, Craig Reardon n'allait pas tenter le diable.
It was necessary for a pair of hands to come up and actually tear into this face. Now, guess whose hand? Steven Spielberg. And the reason for that was very simple. I wanted him to look at it in dailies and not say, who the hell was pulling that apart? They really did a lousy job.
La grande implication de Spielberg fit courir le bruit qu'il avait pris le relais de Hooper en tant que réalisateur. Mais les acteurs démentent formellement.
I saw Tobe there every day, and I saw Spielberg there every day. And on any picture, the producer talks to you, and the director talks to you. I didn't think anything odd about it, about the arrangement.
I mean, Toby certainly had his fair share of input too. We're clear that we were working with both of these people. It didn't affect me. I was happy to have both of them around. So, you know, if there were resentments, they were kept away from me.
En août 1981, Toby Hooper annonça le dernier clap. Les comédiens quittèrent le plateau épuisés et contents d'en avoir fini avec ce film. Mais le spectacle n'était pas fini pour autant. Les studios de la MGM engagèrent l'écrivain James Caan pour écrire un roman Poltergeist comme outil de promotion pour la sortie du
I
film.
didn't have an office per se, but Steven's office on the then MGM lot was open because he was, that's where he was filming E.T. So I just ensconced myself in his office for that month and wrote 15, 18 hours a day to get the book done. So by the end of the month, it was the day after Thanksgiving, I was getting close to the end. Marcy, the typist, came in late that afternoon, and we were writing into the night, and it was about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and I was just writing the line, thunder and lightning ripped the sky. And just as I finished writing it, this intense blast of lightning and huge thunderclap just whammed into the building. The facing on the air conditioning unit blew off the unit, flew across the room and hit me in the back, and all the lights flickered and went out. And Marcy jumped up and screamed, and we didn't know what was going on. After about half a minute or a minute, the lights flickered and went on, and then all the video games in the room started playing themselves.
Pendant ce temps, Spielberg se battait contre un autre genre de force terrifiante, l'Association américaine du cinéma. Le comité de censure s'inquiétait du contenu violent du film.
The first rating for Poltergeist was an R, which was the kiss of death back in the 80s. Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall knows where their money comes from during the summer blockbuster season, you know, and that's from young kids who are willing to go to see movies over and over and over again. MGM really needed to have a PG rating.
Spielberg et les dirigeants de la MGM n'allaient pas se laisser faire.
There's no nudity in it, you know. There's no horrific language. Even the violence that happened is, you know, it's scary, but it's not. But it's tame. So Frank Marshall and Steven pleaded with the ratings board to get a PG.
Les producteurs arrivèrent à leur fin et Poltergeist obtint la mention accord parental souhaitable. Mais les problèmes étaient loin d'être terminés. En avril 1982, la bande-annonce de Poltergeist fut diffusée dans les cinémas de tout le pays. La campagne publicitaire l'annonçait comme un film de Steven Spielberg. Le réalisateur Toby Hooper était furieux.
Because of this ensuing controversy over who really directed the film, you know, obviously Toby felt, you know, a little short-shrifted.
Spielberg réagit en écrivant une pleine page dans le Daily Variety, véritable apologie des talents de réalisateur de Hooper. Mais le public se fichait de savoir qui avait réalisé Poltergeist. Le film sortit le 4 juin 1982 et avait engendré près de 7 millions de dollars le week-end suivant. Les critiques étaient tout aussi impressionnantes. Heather O'Rourke, âgée de 6 ans, était aux anges.
And she predicted even then, she was Preston, this is going to be a huge hit. How are we ever going to top it?
Le 4 juin 1982, le film Poltergeist terrorisa le public à travers tout le pays. Ce week-end-là, l'histoire de fantôme de Steven Spielberg caracolait en tête du box-office. Mais le succès du film fut bientôt assombri par la tragédie et la violence. Poltergeist fit d'Heather O'Rourke une star.
With the popularity of Poltergeist, there was nowhere that Heather could go or not go where she would not be recognized.
Well, one thing Heather told me, she says, I don't know why people want my autograph. It's just my name I'm writing. So she just, and I explained to her, well, she was in love with, she liked Sylvester Stallone. So I said, well, if you got someone's autograph you really liked, was that important? She said, oh, yes. I said, well, that's how you were to other kids. So she never refused an autograph, and she could understand all that. She was never rude or anything, but she didn't think she was anything special.
Le film avait plu au public.
The strangest people were the people after the movies who kept saying, well, that happened to me.
What happened in the movie happened to me. Really thank you for portraying it so accurately.
They recognized me in the street. They stopped me in the aisles of the supermarket and said, could you please take a look at my house? No, ma'am, I can't. I'm so sorry.
Poltergeist semblait être en bonne voie pour être le succès de l'été jusqu'à la sortie de l'autre film de Spielberg, E.T., une semaine plus tard. Le film pulvérisa les records d'affluence et relégua Poltergeist à la 2e place.
E.T. just kind of trumped it, but it trumped everything in its path. E.T. was one of those, spectacular blockbusters for the ages.
Bien qu'il ne fût plus numéro 1 au box-office, Poltergeist avait bien lancé la carrière de ces deux jeunes stars. La cote de Dominique Dune, âgée de 22 ans, montait en flèche. Elle jouerait par la suite dans la série télé V.
She was really brilliant, smart, talented, easy to get along with, full of enthusiasm because she was just starting her career.
La vie sentimentale de Dominique avançait également à toute vitesse. Son petit ami, John Sweeney, 26 ans, était un chef talentueux. Le couple semblait heureux, mais ils étaient en proie à leurs propres démons. Michael Figg a travaillé avec Sweeney dans le restaurant de West Hollywood, Ma Maison.
First impression of John was high energy. He was always moving. Bit of a temper, and they didn't really want to set it off or aggravate him or anything.
Sweeney s'énervait facilement. Lorsqu'un fan complimentait Dominique pour sa performance dans Poltergeist, Sweeney l'aurait agressé. À peine quelques mois plus tard, c'est Dominique qui fut victime d'une des crises de jalousie de Sweeney. L'ami de Dominique, l'acteur Miguel Ferrer, témoigne.
Sweeney beat the crap out of her. She thought she was gonna die. He choked her unconscious, banged her head on the floor, did all this. I was absolutely blown away.
Un mois plus tard, Dominique et Sweeney se battirent à nouveau. Mais cette fois, la jeune actrice prit des mesures. Écoutons son amie Gloria Gifford.
He tried to hurt her, and she knew he was really doing something bad. And it was after that she told me that she said she was separating from him, that they were going to take a time away from each other.
Mais Sweeney ne pouvait accepter cette rupture. Selon les rapports de police, la veille d'Halloween, le cuisinier avait sculpté un masque en chocolat représentant Dominique et le lui avait apporté chez elle. Elle était en train de répéter avec l'acteur David Packer lorsque Sweeney lui fit sa visite surprise. Harold Johnston, ancien policier à Los Angeles.
John Sweeney came up, knocked on the door, asked her to let him in so he could talk to her. She declined. She then came outside with him to talk to him. Mr. Packer said he then heard loud noises and loud conversation coming from the front porch.
Packer déclara plus tard avoir essayé d'ignorer la dispute. Il a augmenté le volume de la bande-son de Poltergeist pour couvrir les bruits. Puis il entendit Dominique crier.
At that time, Mr. Packer said he wanted to telephone a friend, and he left a message on the answering machine and said, "If I die tonight, John Sweeney did it."
Pris de panique, Packer appela la police.
Police personnel who answered the telephone told him that if he was any kind of a man, that he would go out and help Miss Dunn.
Mais Packer n'en fit rien. À quelques pas de là, Dominique se débattait pour rester en vie. Stephen Barshop, avocat de la défense, nous explique.
Grabbed Dominique Dunn by the neck. He grabbed her, pulled her off the porch, pulled her to the side of the house, and was strangling her.
It took approximately 4 minutes. When the sheriff's deputies first arrived, Mr. Sweeney walked out to them with his hands up. He then walked back here and lay down beside Miss Dunn.
Dominique fut immédiatement transportée à l'hôpital Cedar Sinai à Los Angeles, où elle tomba dans le coma.
Our emotions would swing from absolute despair to, come on, she's still here. As long as she's still here, there's still a chance. It's going to be okay.
Mais ce ne fut pas le cas. Au bout de 4 jours, on débrancha les appareils d'assistance et le décès de Dominique fut officiellement prononcé. Sa famille et ses amis étaient anéantis.
She was a wonderful up-and-coming young star. And, when she was killed, we were stunned. We were just stunned because that had been such a life force. So that was really a tragedy.
John Sweeney fut inculpé pour meurtre. Son procès débuta le 19 juillet 1983 à la cour d'assises de Santa Monica. L'écrivain Mikita Brotman témoigne.
John Sweeney came into court looking very, very contrite. He was wearing a black suit, clutching a Bible, looking like a student in a Catholic seminary. He looked down. He was just very pensive and contrite throughout the whole trial.
Sweeney déclara qu'il avait étranglé Dominique Dune sous le coup de la passion. Il s'est montré ému. Le 10 novembre 1983, après 6 semaines de procès, le jury rendit son verdict. Sweeney fut jugé coupable d'homicide volontaire et condamné à 6 ans de prison.
He served in the end 2.5 years, and that was a very controversial, for someone who strangled his girlfriend with his bare hands.
Après la mort tragique de Dominique, une légende urbaine était née, la malédiction de Poltergeist.
To a certain extent, there were close similarities between events in the film and events outside the film, so I think that really began to fuel the curse.
Ne manquait pas les derniers rites d'un acteur.
And I said that he needs to do this for a soul. I knew he wasn't going to live long.